Hello, and welcome. You've arrived at a quiet corner of the past, a gentle memory, tucked safely inside the long, slow breath of time. Tonight, I'll take you far away from the noise of the day. There's nothing to worry about here. No plans, no lists, no urgency. Just the steady rhythm of life. Long ago, in a time when the Nile flowed quietly past sleepy villages, and the golden sun warmed ancient walls of mud brick and limestone. This is a story from a world that no longer exists, but once was full of life and routine and simple comforts. We're going to visit a bakery, not just any bakery, but one from the days of ancient Egypt, a place where warm loaves rose slowly in the oven, where flour floated like a soft mist in the air, and where the smell of fresh bread drifted out into the dusty streets like a sleepy song. So settle in, take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax. Close your eyes if you'd like. You don't need to see. I'll paint the scene for you, gently and slowly, with words. Let's begin. The Nile at dawn, the first light of morning is stretching. Across the eastern horizon, the sun hasn't fully risen yet. It's just a whisper of gold, casting long shadows across the desert sands. The great Nile River, silent and slow, glides by with a mirror-like stillness. Along the muddy banks, papyrus reeds sway gently in the early breeze. Birds call out softly, greeting the dawn in their own hushed chorus. A narrow wooden boat floats by, its oar dipping soundlessly into the water with each smooth pull. In the distance, a line of palm trees stands tall, dark against the glowing sky, and nearby, nestled in a quiet village of sun-dried brick houses, smoke begins to curl from the chimney of a small building. That is our bakery, but we're not in a rush to get there. We're walking slowly, along the sandy path, feeling the cool air before the day warms. The world is just waking up, and so are we. A quiet walk through the village as we move away from the river. Our path turns dusty, soft underfoot, like worn earth under years of sandals. The village is still quiet. Most doors are closed, but one or two shutters creak open. A sleepy goat stirs near a woven reed fence. A few children's voices murmur, still half asleep. This village is simple, just as most were thousands of years ago. There are no carts, no rush, no clatter of iron or heavy wheels. The houses are made from sun-dried mud brick, in gentle shades of beige and ochre. Some have flat rooftops where families sleep during the hot summer nights. Others have tiny courtyards where herbs grow in clay pots. We pass a woman sweeping her doorstep with a handmade brush. She nods to us with a soft smile. The air smells, faintly, of smoke and clay, warm and earthy, familiar and safe. And just ahead, we see it, a small, low building with a wide doorway and a square chimney. The bakery, the heart of the village. It has no sign. It doesn't need one. Everyone knows where the bread comes from. Stepping inside the bakery, we duck slightly as we step into the bakery's doorway. The thick mud brick walls keep the inside cool, even when the desert heat grows heavy later in the day. Inside, it is dim, but not dark. The morning light filters through small holes in the walls, casting soft golden beams onto the floor, where flour dust dances in the air like snow. The smell is unmistakable, a mix of yeast, warm, grain, and baked clay. It's not yet busy. The fire has just begun. To your left, you see a large, rounded clay oven, a dome with an opening just big enough to slide bread inside. Nearby, flat trays rest on low shelves. Clay pots hold honey, dates, and barley. And in the center of the room stands the baker. He is not hurried. He moves slowly and deliberately. His hands are strong, but his movements are gentle, practiced, patient. He has done this work every day, just like his father, and his grandfather, and the men before them. The bakery is quiet. Just the sound of wood crackling in the oven, the rustle of linen cloth, the soft thump of dough on stone. There is no need to speak. The work speaks for itself. And you are welcome here, just to watch, to rest, to listen, and to drift, slowly, into the rhythms of a day-long past. Inside the bakery, the world is still wrapped in silence. The sun is climbing, slowly. But here, time feels thick and unhurried, like honey dripping from a ladle. The air is cool, and the floor beneath your feet is worn smooth from years of careful steps. The baker begins his morning routine, not with urgency, but with rhythm. Every motion has its place. Every tool has its story. He begins by preparing the hearth. He crouches beside the clay oven. The tabern, it's called, shaped like a giant beehive, built from mud, straw, and hardened by years of fire. He lifts a woven basket nearby, full of small, dried pieces of acacia wood. The pieces are light and fragrant, cracking gently in his hands. With practiced care, he places the kindling inside the oven's mouth and strikes a flint, just once, then again, until a quiet flame begins to breathe into the darkness. He shields it gently, letting it grow. The fire awakens slowly. No rush, just warmth gathering breath. Soon, soft flickers of orange and gold dance on the walls, mingling with the beams of sunlight coming through the small holes in the mud brick walls. Shadows stretch. The scent of smoke rises. The bakery is beginning to come alive, but not with noise, with memory. Nearby, resting on a low wooden bench, smoothed by time, the baker's tools await. They are simple, but beautiful in their usefulness. A round stone basin, used for grinding barley and emmer wheat. Its surface is shallow and worn, like the curve of an old hand. Next to it, a flat grinding stone, a quern, smooth from generations of use. Beside these lies a wooden scoop, carved carefully and darkened from years of flour and oil. A woven basket holds barley grains, golden, nutty, slightly sweet, and to the side, wrapped carefully in linen, is a block of sourdough starter, kept alive by the baker's daily care, passed down from baker to baker, like a living memory. There is no rush to use these tools. The baker moves slowly. He begins by measuring the grain, not with numbers, but with memory, with feel. He knows exactly how much he needs for the morning's first dough. He pours the barley into the basin, the soft sound like sand falling through an hourglass. Then, with strong arms, he begins to grind. Round and round. The stone moves, humming gently across the basin's curved floor. Not harsh, just steady, like waves on the river, or breath. Flour rises like a cloud, light and white, settling on his arms, in his hair, across the floor in a powdery carpet. Outside, the village is beginning to stir. A few footsteps can be heard. A goat bleats softly. Somewhere, water is being poured into a clay jar. But inside the bakery, there is only the rhythm of the grindstone, the breath of fire, the steady heart of morning work. The baker wipes his brow with a cloth. He is not tired, only focused and calm. His arms move, as if part of a ritual, not a task. And that's what this work is. Not just baking, but honoring something old, something shared. He gathers the flour, now soft and warm from grinding, and pours it carefully into a mixing bowl made from fired clay. He adds a pinch of salt, scooped from a pouch made of woven reeds. Then he unfolds the linen cloth holding the sourdough starter, revealing a soft, living dough, faintly bubbling with life. He places it gently in the bowl, like a sleeping animal returning to its nest. Then he adds water, not too much, from a tall clay vessel cooled by evaporation, and, slowly, silently, he begins to knead. The baker kneads slowly. His hands press into the soft, sticky dough with a steady rhythm. Push, fold, turn, push again. The clay bowl rocks gently with each motion. There's no rush. The dough will take the time it needs. Each movement is deliberate, like a lullaby sung with hands instead of voice. The dough is warm, alive with the quiet magic of yeast. The starter, passed down through generations, brings its own story to every loaf. It smells faintly, sour, slightly sweet, earthy and comforting, like sun-warmed grain. You can almost feel it, soft against your fingers, slightly elastic, growing smoother with every fold. The baker doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. This is a silent conversation between grain and water, heat and time, between human and nature. The room is hushed. Only the soft slap of dough, the creak of the wooden table, and the low crackling from the oven keep company. This moment is sacred, not in a grand way, but in a simple, everyday way. Like watching the sunrise. Or listening to the wind move through the reeds. Once the dough is soft, pliable, and warm to the touch, the baker shapes it into gentle rounds. Some are flat and wide, others slightly thicker depending on the type of bread he plans to bake today. He places the rounds on a flat, dusted stone surface, covering them with a piece of linen cloth, faded and flour-stained from use. And now, he waits. There's a rhythm in the waiting. This is the quiet hour, the hour when the dough breathes on its own, rising slowly in the warm air of the bakery, just near the hearth, but not too close, protected from drafts. Given space. The baker steps outside for a moment. You follow. The air is warming now. The village is waking. But still, nothing feels rushed. The baker pours a bit of water into a small basin and washes his hands, watching the flour swirl away. Then he drinks just a few sips and returns to the oven, checking the fire with the soft poke of a stick. Inside, the flames burn low and steady, perfect for baking. Back at the stone table, the dough has begun to rise. Slowly, gently, the surface is puffing, becoming lighter, airier. The linen cloth lifts, just slightly, like a breath, being held. Not all of today's bread is for the villagers. Some loaves will be brought to the temple. The gods must eat, too, or so it was believed. Not just to feed them, but to show gratitude, to keep balance, to maintain Mat, the sacred order of the universe. The baker selects a few loaves, the best-shaped ones, the smoothest dough. He places dates on top of one. Another he dusts with crushed sesame and wild herbs. A third he shapes into a small bird, not too detailed, but enough to resemble a sacred ibis. These offering breads are special. They are not meant to be eaten, though sometimes the priests would consume them afterward. They are symbols of thanks, of hope, of rhythm. Life depended on bread. It was more than food. It was sustenance, currency, ritual. And so, the act of shaping bread became a kind of prayer, a silent one, spoken in folds and flour. Not all loaves are plain. Some are for joy, for festivals, or births, or weddings, or just as gifts to neighbors. Sweetbreads are made. The baker reaches for a jar sealed with cloth and twine. Inside is honey thick and amber, collected from hives kept near the village edge. He adds just a little to a fresh batch of dough, along with chopped dried dates, a pinch of coriander, and a dash of cinnamon-like spice brought from Nubia. The scent that rises is gentle, but enchanting, rich, warm, comforting. He kneads this dough more softly. It's slightly stickier now, but more fragrant, more indulgent. These loaves will bake darker. Their crusts will caramelize. Their scent will draw people to the door even before the sun is high. Sweetbread is not everyday bread, but it is remembered. It marks the turning of the seasons, the arrival of spring floods, a return from a long journey, a child's naming ceremony, a feast for the gods. He shapes the loaves with care, brushing the tops with a bit more honey, then setting them aside to rise beside the plain ones. There's no sound. Still, only scent. And warmth. And peace. The sun has climbed a little higher now, though the bakery is still cool. The fire burns steady. The loaves, both simple and sweet, are resting. And so is the baker, sitting on a small woven stool by the oven, wiping his hands with a linen cloth, watching the flames flicker behind the oven's clay mouth. This moment is one of stillness, not of idleness, but of quiet presence. Everything is ready, the fire, the bread, the day, and still. The village outside moves slowly, and so do we. The dough has risen, the oven is ready, and so, the most delicate moment begins, the transition from dough to bread, from preparation to completion. The baker moves quietly. There is no announcement, no clanging of trays or shouts to helpers, only silence and care. He lifts the first loaf, the plain round one, with both hands. It is soft, slightly springy, its surface dusted with flour, its underside cool and still damped up with a gentle motion. He slides it into the oven, then another, and another. The fire inside the clay dome glows softly. The oven mouth is small, so he bakes in batches, placing the loaves along the heated walls with a curved wooden paddle, turning them slightly to ensure even color. There is no timer, only instinct. He knows the smell, the sound, the faint crackling. That means the crust has begun to form. He watches the fire, the way the flames flicker, and the way the loaves darken around the edges. The scent begins to change, from raw dough and flour, to something richer, deeper, toasty, earthy, satisfying. The bakery fills with the aroma. It drifts through the doorway, into the street. It mingles with the morning sun. It moves like a song on the breeze. The first loaf is ready. The baker reaches into the oven with a flat, long-handled tool, a board carved from palm wood. He lifts the bread out slowly. The crust is firm, lightly cracked, golden brown. The base is darkened just enough. The steam that escapes smells of warmth, of memory, of home. He sets it aside on a reed mat to cool. It makes no sound, this bread, but somehow, it speaks soon after. The first footsteps fall at the door. A woman from the house nearby, her linen wrap tied carefully, a clay basket on her hip. She enters with a smile, her voice soft. The baker nods. They speak only a few words. She selects 2 small loaves, still warm, and offers a bit of dried fish and a small copper token in return. It is enough. She wraps the bread in a cloth and tucks it into her basket. Outside, a boy waits, tugging at her elbow. She hands him a piece of crust, and he nibbles it happily as they walk away. Others follow slow and steady, as the village wakes fully. Some bring salt, others honey or herbs. One leaves a folded piece of linen in exchange for festival bread. There is no hurry, no pushing, no coins clattering, just the soft murmur of voices, the exchange of food for thanks, smiles shared, names remembered. The bakery is not just a place of work, it is the center of the village's rhythm, warm, steady, constant, like the oven, like the Nile. After the morning rush, if you could call it that, the bakery becomes quiet again. The loaves are cooling on reed mats. The oven still glows, but lower now. The scent of bread lingers, rich and sweet. The baker stretches his arms. He steps outside, wiping his brow with a cloth. The sun is higher now, warm against the earth, the shadows shorter. He finds a spot beneath a fig tree near the edge of the wall. A flat rock serves as a bench. He sits and slowly unwraps a small bundle, his breakfast a piece of crust, still warm, a handful of olives, a bit of soft cheese wrapped in a fig leaf. He eats slowly, chewing with quiet contentment, not because he is tired, but because he is satisfied. The morning is done. The bread is baked, the village has eaten. He leans back against the tree, looking toward the Nile in the distance, the shimmer of water, the slow boats drifting past. He closes his eyes. And so can you. Let us begin again. Gently. The bread is resting now. The bakery has quieted. The oven sighs with its fading fire. And as we wait for the next batch, we follow the story backward, before the flour, before the dough, before the oven even warms. We drift gently to the fields. The places where bread begins. You're walking now across a wide, golden plain. The sun is soft and low in the sky, not harsh, just warming the earth gently. Here, in the floodplains beyond the village, stretches a barley field, shimmering like gold thread, waving in the breeze like a sleeping sea. Each stalk stands tall, its head heavy with ripening grain. The land here is rich, dark with silt from the Nile's annual floods. The farmers knew when the waters would rise, and when they would fall. It was part of their rhythm like breath. You pause by the edge of the field, watching. In the distance, a man moves slowly through the rows, gently parting the stalks with his hands. He's checking the ripeness, the feel of the grain. He isn't in a hurry. The harvest is soon, but not yet. The barley will tell him when it's ready, and when it is, the village will gather men, women, even children, each with a basket or a curved sickle made from wood and flint. The barley is everything. It feeds the people, the gods, even the animals. It becomes flour, porridge, beer, and bread. Bread begins here, among golden fields, beneath wide skies. On harvest days, the village wakes early. The sun rises pink and gold, soft as a whisper. The tools are gathered, small, wooden sickles, their edges set with tiny flint teeth. Baskets woven from date palm fronds. Cloth wraps for the head to guard against the sun. There is no shouting, no rush, only steady movement, like music without sound. Farmers bend at the waist, cutting barley stalks in careful bundles. The children run ahead to gather loose grain. Others bring water from the river in clay jugs wrapped in damp linen. The bundles are tied, then loaded onto sleds pulled by oxen, their wooden runners gliding over the dry earth. The air smells sweet, of grain, grass, and sweat, not heavy, just alive. The harvest is not work, it is ritual, it is return. It is the moment when all that was planted is gathered, like memory being carried home. Later, the grain will be dried, threshed, and pounded. But for now, it is simply gathered, and so are we, gathered into this moment, still present, warmed by the sun. Once the grain is gathered, it returns to the village, not to the oven yet, but to the granary, a low structure, cool and shaded, with rounded mud brick silos clustered like clay pots beneath the sun. Here the barley is dried on woven mats, turned slowly through the day by gentle hands, then stored in tall, beehive-shaped silos sealed with plaster and mud. You walk past them now, their curved walls warm to the touch. A few have markings, symbols to show the owner, or the contents, or the date of storage. Inside. The grain sleeps waiting for its purpose. Each handful of barley is part of a long line, grown by a father, harvested by a daughter, ground by a grandmother, baked by a neighbor. No part of the process is forgotten. It is lived. The silos do not speak, but they remember, and so do we. Not all ingredients are grown in the FLs. Some are gathered from places harder to reach. Salt, for example, is brought from the desert edge in small sacks carried by donkey caravans. A rare treasure. It is not used in abundance, but just enough to preserve, to flavor, to honor. The baker stores his salt in a clay pot sealed with wax and string. A few sprigs of thyme like desert herb are tucked nearby, their scent sharp and clean. Near the back of the bakery, you find a shelf of dried ingredients. Coriander, fennel, crushed dates wrapped in leaves, a jar of fig paste, a few precious almonds. Each one has traveled, some from nearby hills, others from far-off lands, but here they rest together. Silent, waiting to become part of something warm, something shared. Like the bread itself. Let's rest here a moment, beside the clay shelves, among the grain jars, in the soft light of a quiet, ancient kitchen. No need to move, just listen. To the wind outside, to the hush of flower in the air, to the memory of the land. Let's return quietly to our gentle journey. The sun is higher now. Shadows soften. The breeze still lingers through the bakery's clay arches, and behind the loaves, behind the flour, there are gifts even more delicate. We drift now toward sweetness. Honey, not just a treat, a treasure. You find it in a small sealed jar, tucked in the corner of the bakery. It's not large, not extravagant, but it shines golden through the clay, even in shadow. The jar smells faintly of sun-warmed flowers. A wax seal covers the top, with a simple linen tie. It has not been opened in days. The bees who made this honey lived far from the bakery in long rows of clay tube hives, lined up near the edge of the Nile. The beekeepers move slowly, carefully. They hum under their breath, as if to speak to the bees in their own language. When the time is right, they burn a little smoke to calm the hive. Then, from each clay tunnel, they collect the honeycombs with soft hands and woven brushes. The honey is filtered, poured through linen cloth, stretched tight like a net. Slowly, the golden liquid gathers in wide clay bowls. No rush, it takes time. Then it's poured into jars, sealed, and carried back across the river, in boats that barely make a sound. The baker uses it sparingly, just a drop on festival bread, just a swirl in date cakes for temple offerings. But the sweetness lingers. The palm trees rise, tall outside the village walls. Their fronds rustle like paper in the wind, and their shadows stretch long across the sand. Among the leaves, the dates hang in thick, clustered bunches, dark, sticky, and sweet. A man climbs gently, barefoot, using a rope tied around his waist and the tree. He doesn't look down. He's done this since he was a child. With careful fingers, he cuts the dates from the branch and lowers them in a net to the ground. The women wait below, laying the fruit on wide woven mats. The dates glisten in the sun, brown, golden, sometimes almost black. They are soft and warm to the touch. In the bakery, dates are crushed into paste or sliced and tucked inside dough before baking. Sometimes they're rolled into balls with barley flour and honey, then left to rest on cool stone. Small sweet bites for holidays or temple workers. The dates do not last long, but their taste stays, and so does their story. Not everything grows in the same place. Some ingredients travel. And to travel in Egypt means to float. You walk now along the riverbank. A narrow wooden boat, nothing large, nothing loud, rocks gently in the shallow waters. Its sail is folded. Two long oars lie across its middle like resting arms. It is loaded with sacks, grain salt, dried herbs, clay jars of honey and oil. The baker's cousin brings these goods from a nearby village every week. He speaks little. He moves like water. No one knows the river like he does. The Nile is quiet today. Its surface mirrors the sky. A few white birds drift above, calling softly. As they pass, the boat pushes away. Slow, smooth. It follows the current north, toward the delta, or maybe south, toward the temples. It doesn't matter. The bread will follow, because the Nile is the vein that feeds it all. The people, the grain, the fruit, the stories. The baker watches from the shore, then turns back toward his oven. Now we return, back through the fields, through the silos, along the riverbank. We return to the bakery, where the dough is rising. The baker gently opens a basket. Inside, the soft smell of grain, of heat, of time. All the ingredients, the barley, the dates, the honey, the salt, they've all come together here, not to show off, not to boast, but simply to become bread. Just bread. Warm. Shared. Offered. The baker hums as he checks the dough. His hands, covered in flour, move like he's shaping more than food. He's shaping the past. He's shaping memory. He's shaping what we all carry. And tonight, we sleep with the scent of bread in our thoughts. Let's breathe here. Let the ingredients rest. Let the stories stay warm. We'll return soon, for shaping and baking. But for now, the bakery is quiet. The river is still, and the bread is becoming. The bakery is warm now. The sun leans toward the west. A deeper gold fills the room, and the dough has risen. It's time to shape, not in haste, not in perfection, but in care, in rhythm, in memory. The baker washes his hands in a shallow clay bowl. The water is warm, scented with mint leaves from the herb basket. He dries his palms on linen, reaches for the dough. It's soft. Springy. It breathes when touched, like a held breath waiting to exhale. He pinches a piece, kneads it gently on a stone slab dusted with barley flour. Not too much, just enough to shape it. He hums again, a low, steady tune passed down from his grandmother, who shaped bread before him. Each loaf takes its form, a round flatbread for workers, a folded bun for the neighbor, with no teeth, a crescent for a child's birthday, tall conical loaf for temple. Offering nothing is wasted. Even the smallest pieces are pressed into rolls for the geese. Beside the wall stands the oven. It's shaped like a dome, low, rounded, built from mud and straw. The inside is blackened from hundreds of firings. A fire is burning now, tucked deep inside. The flames curl like dancers behind the opening. The baker tests the heat, holding his palm near the opening, feeling the air shimmer. Not ready yet. He adds a branch of palm frond and a twist of dried herb. The smoke smells of the fields. Then he waits. No rush. The oven speaks in warmth, not words. When the time comes, he slides the bread inside using a long wooden paddle. The dough touches stone and begins to sing, a quiet crackle, a sigh, a whisper of heat meeting life. Some loaves bake fast, others slow. He watches, turning them gently with practiced hands. Each has its time. Once baked, the bread rests, not on metal racks but on woven mats and wide clay plates, laid carefully on a bench by the wall. The heat rises off the loaves in soft waves. The bakery is quiet during this time. No one speaks. Even the birds outside seem to hush. The baker closes his eyes for a moment. This pause, this stillness, is part of the rhythm. His breath slows. His heart matches the pace of the cooling bread. Children sometimes peek in. The scent of baking draws them like wind draws leaves. He gives them a smile, and a piece, a corner of flatbread, a tiny warm roll, and the children run off, laughing with flour on their cheeks. The bread does not stay long by sunset. Much of it is gone. Some goes to workers building canal walls, some to the scribe's wife who pays in dried herbsum to the temple wrapped in linen, carried with curé, few to the baker's neighbors, who leave tokens of thanks, beads, thread. Dried fish bread is not just food, it is promise, it is kindness, it is memory, baked and given freely. The baker never asks for more. He only kneads, shapes, bakes, and offers. As night falls, the oven glows with the last of its heat. The loaves are gone. The baskets are empty. The air smells of ash and barley, still warm but fading. The baker sweeps the floor slowly. A few crumbs, a curl of herb, a stray grain, all brushed into a corner for the birds. In the morning he sits on a low stool by the door. The stars begin to show. A breeze carries the scent of the Nile, and far off singing he leans back and smiles. The fire has faded. The bread is baked. The day has passed, and in this quiet place, the ancient warmth lingers, not just in stone, not just in air, but in us. We rest tonight with flour on our hands, and stories in our hearts. The bakery sleeps, so do we. The bakery wakes early, earlier than usual, because today is not an ordinary day. Today is for the gods. It's still dark. The stars are quiet. The Nile glimmers faintly under a veil of Mist. Inside the bakery, a small flame flickers. The baker stirs a pot of barley mash over the coals, thick, fragrant, steaming. He adds date paste, a pinch of salt, and crushed fennel. The scent is deep and ancient. Today is a festival in honor of Hathor, goddess of joy and music. The temples will be full, the streets lined with garlands. Flutes and sistrums will echo through the city. But first, the bread must be made, not just any bread, sacred bread, bread shaped for the divine. The baker's hands move with reverence. Each loaf is special. Some are shaped like cows, sacred too. Hathor. Others are small cone loaves placed on offering tables. Some bear marks, a reed, a lotus, a rising sun, symbols pressed into the dough with carved wooden stamps. These aren't made for hunger, they're made for meaning. The texture is different too. Finer flour, smoother paste, honey is added, sometimes a dash of fig wine, and the scent, sweet, almost floral. They bake quickly in a smaller oven near the altar corner, an old soot-darkened hearth used only for sacred tasks. As the loaves emerge, they're placed on linen-covered trays. No one touches them bare-handed. The baker bows his head. His daughter hums a hymn softly. These breads are quiet gifts, meant to rise not just with heat, but with hope that as the sun rises, the village stirs. The baker steps out into the morning with a basket balanced on his shoulder, not large, but carefully arranged. He walks with others toward the temple. The streets are swept clean. Flowers line the edges. Musicians begin to play slow rhythms that echo the heartbeat of the land. At the temple steps, a priest greets them. The bread is placed on a stone altar. There are bowls of milk, beer, figs, and these loaves warm, sweet, sacred. The priest lights incense. Smoke rises thin and silver, curling into the air like threads of prayer. The bread will not be eaten yet. It must be seen first, honored, then shared with the temple staff, or with statues of the gods in rituals known only to the priests. But the baker stays for a moment. He watches the rising smoke and whispers a wish as the temple rituals unfold. The village comes alive. There are dances in the courtyard, games for children, long tables shaded by palm fronds, and food, so much food. The baker's ordinary loaves are sliced and shared. Sweet rolls with honey and raisins are passed in baskets. Children dip them in date syrup and laugh with sticky hands. Neighbors bring their own dishes, lentil stew in clay bowls, pickled onions, fresh cucumbers from the garden. There's no rush, no performance, just joy. Bread is everywhere, not as a symbol now, but as comfort. The baker watches from under a fig tree, sipping cool beer from a red jar. His feet are dusty. His robe smells of flour and smoke, but his eyes are light. As evening falls, the temple bells sound one final time. The air grows cooler. The Nile reflects the fading sky like a scroll unrolling in silver. The baker walks home slowly, his basket empty. The sacred loaves have been given. The common bread has been shared. What remains is peace. He lights a small oil lamp in his home, breaks a final piece of bread, places it on a tiny shrine by the wall for his ancestors. Then he eats the rest, and smiles, because even after the festival ends, the bread stays with us. It binds us to gods too. Neighbors, to memory, to love. The loaves are gone, the songs have faded, but something ancient lingers still in the warmth of flour, in the press of a hand, in the hush of a temple altar. We rest now beneath the stars of old Kemet, and tomorrow, when the sun returns, the sun dips low, softening the earth with a golden glow. But today, we step beyond the living world, beyond the bustling streets, beyond the singing rivers. We step quietly into the realm of memory and eternity, where bread carries a promise of life after life. Bread for the dead, an ancient tradition in ancient Egypt. Bread was never just for now, it was a gift for forever. When someone passed, families prepared offerings. Bread was shaped specially, not just as food, but as a symbol to nourish the soul on its journey. The baker crafts these loaves with care. They are sometimes flat, easy to carry, sometimes shaped like birds or fish, symbols of freedom and abundance. Each loaf is a prayer, each crumb a wish. In a quiet corner of the bakery, the baker works alone. Soft chants hum through the air. His hands press dough gently, molding shapes known only to the priests and families. He adds crushed dates and honey to sweeten the loaves, symbols of sweetness in the afterlife. He carefully places small pieces of frankincense, Inside some breads, a fragrant gift. The oven glows softly. The scent of baking fills the room, warm, sweet, and bittersweet all at once. The breads are carried by family members to the tomb. Outside, the desert wind whispers softly through palm trees. The tomb is quiet, but alive with memory. The offerings rest on stone tables beside painted jars of water and wine, fresh flowers, and carved wooden statues. A priest leads a prayer. The family members place their hands lightly on the loaves, feeling connection. For the ancient Egyptians, bread was more than food. It was a bridge between the living and the dead, between the earth and the sky, between the present and forever. The day fades into night. The stars burn bright, eternal witnesses. The baker returns home, tired but peaceful. He lights a small oil lamp. He places a small loaf of bread on a shelf in his home, a silent prayer for those who have passed, and as he rests, he feels the soft comfort of something larger, the ancient promise baked in every loaf, that life continues, and love endures. We close the bakery doors gently. We step back into the cool night air. The bread has been made, shared, and remembered, and so have we. Rest now until our next journey. The sun rises soft and warm, but today, our journey is not just about bread. It is about time. About stories, about the hands that shape more than dough, the hands that shape history. In a shaded courtyard nearby, the baker's father waits. He is older now. His hands are worn, but steady. He remembers the scent of barley fields long ago, the slow rhythm of harvest, the first bread he ever shaped. He calls his son close together. They knead the dough. The father's hands move slowly, showing the boy every fold, every pre. The father's hands move slowly, showing the boy every fold, every press. Bread is life, he says softly, but stories are its soul. He tells tales as the dough rises of ancient kings who feasted on barley cakes, of workers who shared bread by the Nile, of festivals where bread and music danced together. The son listens. He smells the dough. He learns. Bread carries more than flour. It holds memory. Every grain is a story seed, planted and nurtured through time. The baker remembers the stories told by his mother of a grandmother who baked for pharaohs. He thinks of the village children who run with crumbs on their lips. He knows that when he shapes bread, he shapes something invisible too, a bridge between past and future. In the cool evening, the baker's daughter watches. Her small hands are eager. He shows her how to fold the dough gently. She listens to the hum of the oven. She learns the songs of rising bread. One day, she will carry the legacy. The stories and loaves will continue. The bakery is more than stone and fire. It is a living story, of hands that shaped bread, of voices that told tales, of a people connected through flour and memory. And as the sun sets, the baker smiles, for in every loaf, the past lives on. And so does hope. Let us rest now with flour-dusted hands, with stories whispered softly in the evening breeze. Tomorrow, the bakery will awaken again, and the story will continue. The morning sun rises slowly, birdsong fills the air, and all around the bakery, life stirs gently, because the bakery is more than just a place to make bread. It is a heart, a meeting place, a quiet center of the village's rhythm. Outside the bakery, women gather. Some carry baskets woven from palm fronds, others bring fresh herbs, ripe figs, or pots of cool water. They speak softly, exchanging news and laughter. The baker nods hello as he steps outside, flour still dusting his tunic. A child runs by with sticky fingers. A pair of elders sit nearby, sharing stories under a fig tree. The bakery's warmth reaches beyond its walls. It is woven into the fabric of the community. Once a week, market day arrives. The village hums with activity. Merchants set up stalls with woven mats. There are jars of honey, bundles of spices, fresh vegetables, and clay pots. The baker brings fresh bread, warm and fragrant. Customers come from near and far. They barter, exchange stories, and share smiles. Bread is offered freely to friends who cannot pay, a gesture of kindness. The market is more than trade. It is connection, a web spun by simple acts of giving. As the day winds down, the bakery glows softly in the evening light. The baker sits outside, on a low stone bench. He watches as neighbors close their doors. The scent of baking lingers in the air. A gentle breeze rustles palm leaves, and the world feels still, connected. In this quiet moment, The bakery is not just a building, it is a story told in flour and fire, in hands and hearts, and in every shared loaf. Let us breathe deeply, let the warmth of community fill us. The bakery story is our story, and together, we rest, until tomorrow's light. The morning light filters softly through small clay windows. Today, we look closely at the tools, at the hands, at the time-honored traditions that turn grain into bread. The bakery is filled with simple tools, a heavy wooden mortar and pestle, worn smooth from generations of grinding barley and wheat, a flat stone slab, the surface where dough is kneaded, dusted with fine flour, wooden paddles, long and slender, used to slide loaves into the glowing oven, small carved stamps, each etched with symbols of life, fertility, and protection. These tools are more than objects, they carry the touch of those who came before. Each chip, each curve, tells a story. The baker's hands move with practiced ease. He pours water slowly over ground barley, watching the grains absorb the liquid. He kneads dough with gentle pressure, folding and pressing. No rush, no force, just rhythm, like the steady pulse of the Nile. His hands feel the doughs change from sticky to smooth, from heavy to light. He shapes each loaf carefully, knowing every step matters. Baking is more than science, it is ritual. Before lighting the oven, the baker whispers a blessing. He places a small sprig of fennel near the hearth, a symbol of health and protection. Certain days call for special breads, shaped with care and offered to gods or ancestors. These traditions are passed from parent to child, like an unbroken thread. The bakery is a living memory, a sacred space where flour and faith meet. The baker knows patience is key. Dough needs time to rise. The oven needs time to warm. The bread needs time to become. In the quiet moments, the bakery breathes, and the ancient craft continues. Let us rest now, feeling the weight of history in simple tools, the rhythm of hands at work, and the sacred patience of bread-making. Tomorrow, the story continues. The first light of dawn slips softly over the horizon. The village stirs, and so does the bakery. Today, we follow the baker step by step through a full day. Before the sun fully rises, the baker is already awake. He washes his hands in cool water, tying his linen robe carefully. The air is fresh, filled with the scent of wet earth and blooming papyrus. He gathers grain from storage, checks the oven's embers, prepares the tools, mortar, pestle, wooden paddles, each laid out with care. This quiet time is sacred, a moment to breathe, to prepare. By midday, the bakery hums with activity. The baker kneads dough rhythmically, folding and pressing with steady hands. The oven glows warmly. Loaves are shaped, flatbreads, rolls, conical loaves, each crafted with care. He checks the oven's heat with practiced patience, slides bread inside with a wooden paddle. The scent of baking fills the air. Neighbors stop by for fresh bread. The baker exchanges smiles and small talk. A child asks for a piece, and the baker offers one with a gentle nod. As the sun lowers, the baker finishes his work. He cleans the tools carefully, sweeps the floor. Lights a small oil lamp. Sits quietly outside the bakery, watches the village settle for the night. The smell of bread lingers in the cooling air. He reflects on the day's work, on the hands that will share his bread tomorrow. And as stars begin to twinkle overhead, he smiles softly. The day ends, but the story continues. Let us rest now, with the warmth of bread and community in our hearts, until dawn calls us again. The bakery smells of earth and grain, but today, something more. Today, we explore the secret flavors, the special recipes that made this bread unforgettable. The baker reaches for a small jar of honey, golden and thick. A few sticky drops swirl into a bowl of dough. The sweetness is subtle, a gentle kiss of sunlight in each bite. Then, dates, plump and dark, are crushed into a soft paste. Folded carefully into the dough, they add warmth and richness. These treats are for special occasions. For festivals. For moments of joy. Not all flavors come from sweetness. The baker grinds fennel seeds, coriander, and cumin with a wooden mortar and pestle. The fragrant powders are folded gently into bread dough, lending an earthy aroma. Sometimes, a pinch of salt harvested from desert salt pans balances the flavors. These savory breads are eaten daily, comfort food for the workers. The baker cracks open a small basket of roasted nuts, almonds and pistachios. Crushed finely, they mingle with barley flour, olive oil, pressed from nearby groves, is drizzled sparingly into the dough. This richness is reserved for honored guests. Bread becomes not just sustenance, but a gift, a celebration of earth's bounty. Each loaf carries a story of the land, of the river, of the people. The baker smiles, knowing that every bite is a connection, a flavor that transcends time. And as we rest with the scent of fresh bread in the air, we taste history. Let us savor this moment, with sweetness, spice, and richness held gently in our hearts. Until our next step on this journey, the bakery stands, quiet now. The oven's cool. The sun sets low behind distant palms, painting the sky in soft golds and purples. But the story of bread, the story of hands and hearth and heart, lives on. Bread rises and falls. Seasons turn, generations pass. Yet the simple act of baking remains, a thread woven through time, connecting the past, the present, the future. Every loaf shaped carries the breath of those who came before, and the hope of those yet to come. The baker's hands are flour-dusted, worn but steady. They have shaped not just dough, but memories, stories, love, community. In every fold, every press, every gift shared. The bakery is a place of belonging, a gentle reminder that even the simplest things, flour, water, fire, can become sacred. Though this story ends here, the warmth continues on kitchens and ovens across time, in every home where bread is shared. Where kindness is given, where tradition is honored, we carry the flame, a quiet, glowing ember of connection. So now, as night falls softly, let us rest with the scent of ancient bread in our dreams, with hearts full of stories and quiet joy, and with gentle hope for the morning. The timeless cycle of bread and life. Bread as memory, story, and community, the sacredness of everyday hands and hearths carrying tradition and kindness forward. Thank you for sharing this gentle journey. May your nights be peaceful and your dreams warm as fresh baked bread.